My wife and I went to a destination wedding in Fiji. We just got back last night, and this video is about my first impression of Fiji. Full disclosure, I did absolutely zero research prior to going, so everything to me was a complete surprise. I had no idea what to expect. This video is going to be about me sharing with you things that I wish somebody would have told me prior to going to Fiji. First off, Fiji was an 11-hour flight from LAX. It's really close to Australia. It's literally halfway around the earth. Fiji Airlines had the most uncomfortable seats ever. I think they do that on purpose to encourage people to spend the extra money to upgrade to business class. I highly recommend you bring a travel pillow with you. They actually served us breakfast and dinner, and the food was really good. Spoiler alert, it was way better than the food we had on the actual island. On the island itself, it was very bland. They did not put a lot of seasonings. Even though the flight itself was only 11 hours, we lost a whole day traveling. Let me explain. We left LAX at midnight, 12 a.m. Saturday, and we arrived in Fiji at 6 a.m. on Sunday. Fiji Airlines has cool cameras on the top and bottom of the plane, so here's some footage of us landing in Fiji. So Phoenix is 5 hours ahead, but a day behind. So, or you could look at it that it's just 19 hours behind. It's very confusing. For an example, let's say it's 5 p.m. Sunday in Fiji. That meant it was 10 p.m. Saturday in Phoenix. Once we got off the plane, the humidity smacked me in the face. Humidity plus ocean breeze is still humidity, and I am not used to that living in Arizona. Our generous bride and groom, remember we were going there for a wedding, they were kind enough to arrange bus pickup for us and some other folks that came in on the same flight to go from the airport to the Outrigger Resort, which was the venue where they were going to have the wedding and reception. Our driver's name was Riaz. He was really cool. And Riaz actually wants to start his own YouTube channel called Fiji Livin'. I wonder where he got that name from. They drive on the left-hand side of the road, just like they did when I went to Grand Cayman. There's a very strong Indian and Australian influence here. And when I say Indian, I mean as in India, the country. Fiji has their own currency. Look how cute this is. This is so pretty. It's about a 2-to-1 to the American dollar. So $20 Fiji is equivalent to $10 American. So American dollar is stronger. Visa is accepted in most places, but there is a 2% service fee. And at the end of every transaction, they're going to ask you, do you want this done in American or Fiji money? Always choose Fiji money because then you get more bang for your buck that way. By the way, I read online you should not drink the tap water. I drank bottled water for the most part. Yes, I had ice that they provided and I didn't get sick. On the way to the resort, we stopped at a gas station and it actually had a convenience store. Here's the hotel, the Outrigger Resort. Isn't this nice, huh? So we made our way to our room. It was room number 214. The locals didn't understand it when I referred to it as 214. They looked at me weird. So I started referring to it as 214. And I was wondering why, and I'm not sure, I think the problem was they only learn in school 1 through 10 in English. They don't learn 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that makes sense as to why they didn't understand the number 14. All right, this is our room. And let's go straight to the main event, the view. Yeah, buddy, check that out. Can't ask for much better than that. And there's Cartoon Wife. You got 2 chairs right here. Let's check out the restroom. And look at these weird looking plugs, aren't that? That's the Australian plug. I had to buy some adapters. There you go. A modern shower. And here's one weird thing I noticed. In order for me to turn on the lights, I had to put my room key in here and then hit the button. Here's a guy trimming a coconut tree right in front of my balcony. Fiji actually uses the same power as Australia, so we had to bring power adapters with us that we got from Amazon. It actually allows us to go to pretty much any country. It's actually really cool. Link below. So after we got settled in, we walked on the beach. We found this little hermit crab. Oh, look, there's somebody living in there. Uh-oh, he's not happy. Then we had dinner. Everywhere we went, we heard people saying, "Bula," which means hello. And eventually I was like, you know what, go bula yourself, because I am from New York after all. They also like to say Bianca, which means thank you. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Bianca. The following day we woke up, we went sailing. Now the groom told us it was a yacht. It was not a yacht, it was a sailboat. There's a big difference between a yacht and a sailboat, not for nothing, all right? So in order to get to the sailboat, we had to go on a little tiny boat. And they called it a dinghy. Anyway, we went on the dinghy to the big boat, right? And I was exhausted by the time I even got to the big boat. So there was no way I was going to go and leave the boat to go swimming. Plus, the minute they mentioned sharks, they said there were reef sharks. Friendly or not, if there's a shark in the water, this Brooklyn boy ain't going in the water, right? So me and this other guy from Chicago, we stayed on the boat. Cartoon wife, she went in the water. It was nice and crystal clear. They went to the sandbar. So it was a nice experience. We even got to feed zebrafish with some bread. If I could find the footage, I'll add it here. Okay. Cartoon wife's about to feed some fish. Oh, here they go. Last but not least, there were blue starfish. I didn't even know these things existed. Blue starfish. I am not kidding. The following day, we did a couple spa experience. Cartoon wife had never had a massage before, so this was special, and it was not cheap. So we went in a golf cart, and they drove us across the street up a hill, and as we were going up this very steep hill, it got cooler and cooler. And I kid you not, the temperature changed. And this is what that setup looked like. We walk in, on the left and the right are massage tables, and there on the floor is a coconut milk bath. It doesn't look very big, but it's very deep. So Cartoon wife and I actually fit there. They gave us some chocolate covered fruits. Afterwards, we showered up and then we got our massages done. Now, the highlight for me was after that, we then went upstairs to this bar area that had fantastic views. That's what this looked like. We returned back to our room and we realized the thermostat had broken. And I called not once, not twice, 3 times. So finally the next day, someone came and repaired it. Now, luckily for us, we had this fan right above our bed that was awesome. The fan kept things moving. I was not dying at all due to the humidity. The locals may not have air conditioning in their homes, so they're like, what's the big deal? To us, it's a big deal, okay? Not for nothing. Humidity is a big, big deal. The following day was the actual wedding and reception, the reason why we came to the island in the first place. The bride was actually carried in by tribesmen. How cool is that? The waves were very, very, very close to the ceremony, and I was actually a little concerned. It's a good thing the ceremony was only 15 minutes. Now, the groom told me it was okay for me to use all the footage I wanted from the wedding, okay? I did not ask if I could say their name, so I'm not going to be safe, but he gave me carte blanche. I could show any footage I wanted from the actual wedding. After the wedding, of course, was the reception. They had a live band. They actually played Despacito. Despacito, and they had fire dancers. How cool is that? The following day was a shopping day. Our driver, Riaz, took us to Suva, which was like, he said it was 2 hours, more like 3 hours away, and because we did some stops along the way. And we learned a tremendous amount from Riaz as we drove. He's a great tour guide. So we learned that the locals speak 3 languages, English, Fijian, and Hindi. And the island is still very green, not developed hardly at all from what I could tell from driving. Our driver, Riaz, is not a fan of the city of Suva. It's very congested. It reminded me of Manhattan traffic. too congested. From what I heard, only Americans tip. The Australians generally do not tip. And the locals, some of them told me that they would love to relocate from Fiji to America. One lady in particular told me she would love to go to San Francisco to be a healthcare assistant, to help the elderly for a living wage. Unfortunately, in the service industry there, they don't really make a living wage from the hotels themselves, so they rely on those American tips. There are absolutely zero guns on the island, as far as I could tell. Unfortunately, we saw a lot of poverty as we were driving around. Buildings with like no windows, no electricity. We also noticed while we were driving that there were cows and horses just loose. And we asked Riaz what the deal was with these wild animals. He says they're not wild. They have owners. They just let them roam around. And then at night, they come and gathering them up. How weird is that? Now I have T-Mobile. As soon as I turned on my phone after we landed, I got a text message from them. Welcome to Fiji. Everything is great. You're going to have data, no problem. BS. I did not have data, okay? I had full bars, still couldn't make or receive any phone calls, and there was zero internet, okay? Zero T-Mobile, zero. Once in a blue moon, I could send a text message if I was lucky, and that was it. Now, the Wi-Fi at the hotel worked, but it was a little slow. I'm talking less than 2 megabits per second up and down. Yes, I'm spoiled. I'm used to 900 megasecond up and down at home. 2? We're talking dial-up speeds. As we were driving, we also saw fish being sold on the side of the road, no refrigeration. I assume that's okay, but that's not what we're accustomed to in the States. Also, Riaz told me that the villages barter. So for example, you might have a warrior part of the village that hunted a boar, and they'll actually trade the meat with a farmer that actually made some vegetables. Riaz also told us that you could buy your own home in Fiji for about $200,000 American. Now, I don't know what the condition of that house is, if it's up to the US standards, with electric and water and lighting and windows and wood floors. And I don't know what you get for $200,000, but Riaz told me you get a house. I don't know to what extent, but you get something for $200,000. So on the last day, our plan was to go ziplining and to see a waterfall at the Sleeping Giant. It's a mountain that looks like a sleeping giant. Unfortunately, that day, it was raining really hard. So Riaz came up with a plan B. Instead, we went to the Fiji Cultural Center, which showed what life was like back in the day before all the gringos went to Fiji. So we got to meet the chief, and we saw how they make pottery. They taught us this whole dance thing. They fed us lunch. It was really nice. I enjoyed it. That was definitely one of the highlights from our trip. I was actually kind of relieved that we didn't go ziplining, because even though the website said I would make the weight, I was still concerned, okay? Not for nothing, because I am a heavy guy. After we were done with the village, Riaz drove us to this place called Port Donaro, and it was fancy. How fancy? Michael Jackson had a house there, okay? That's how fancy it was. Riaz, if you're watching, here's a little tip. Americans will much prefer the Port Donaro than that ratty ass mall you took us to in Suva, all right? Seriously, don't go back to that mall in Suva. After we were done with Port Donaro, Riaz was kind enough to drive us back to the airport. So conclusion, is it worth going to Fiji? Yes and no. See, I'm really grateful and glad that I got to experience it. I personally thought that Fiji reminded me of a cross between Puerto Rico and Grand Cayman. Others on the trip said it reminded them of the Philippines or Hawaii. Now, considering how much closer the Caribbean and Hawaii are to the United States, I probably won't be returning back to Fiji again. But if I were to return, I would stay in the Port Donaro area because I'm fancy. If you do visit, I highly recommend that you return back to the United States on a Friday. That way you have all weekend to recover and get used to the time difference. That's all I got, guys. Please like, subscribe. Let me know below what questions or comments you got. Till next time.